The Galactic Council of Sentient Species, commonly referred to as the Council by most spacefaring cultures, had been in operation for over 12,000 standard cycles. Situated on the impressive orbital station known as Harmonious Unity, it hosted delegates from 273 distinct alien species. The immense ring-like construction revolved gracefully around an unnamed star, deliberately selected for its consistent energy output and equidistant position among the member systems. Another day, another discussion about the primitives, Ambassador Torin Vex remarked to his aide, Mira Pax, as they moved through the gleaming hallways towards the Grand Chamber. Torin, with his lavender-hued skin and 4 ocular organs strategically placed to provide him with a complete 360-degree field of vision, was a member of the Krystelia race, renowned for their skill in negotiation and their composure. The Krystelia had acted as intermediaries in the Council for countless generations. "You mean the humans," Mira corrected him, her sensory tendrils twitching. "We should refer to them by their official name, particularly now that they've been given provisional membership." Provisional, that's the operative term, isn't it? Torin's upper eyes flickered in what his species recognized as a wry smile. 3 years they've been here, all smiles and nods and excessive courtesy. But there's something peculiar about them, Mira. Mark my words. The Council had first made contact with humanity a mere 7 cycles prior, when a human exploratory vessel had inadvertently encountered a Zenturi mining operation in what humans designated the Alpha Centauri system. The meeting had been non-violent, if slightly strained, with the humans exhibiting an unforeseen degree of diplomatic composure for a race that had only lately mastered faster-than-light travel. Since that initial encounter, the Council had been monitoring humans with a mixture of growing intrigue and apprehension. Reports streamed in from various interaction missions, portraying humans as erratically collaborative, remarkably adaptable, and, perhaps most concerningly, seemingly harmless. They're akin to those tamed Earth creatures they refer to as dogs, Council Security Director Barth had once observed during a private session. All wagging appendages and enthusiastic expressions until something jeopardizes their territory. Then the incisors emerge. What perplexed the Council most was the dramatic disparity between human history and their current conduct. Their planetary records revealed millennia of ruthless warfare, ecological devastation, and internal strife. Yet here they were, impeccably mannered in council chambers, diligently adhering to protocols that even some seasoned species found challenging. Torin Vex had made the analysis of humans his personal endeavor. As the senior diplomat for the Crystalian Federation, he took great pride in comprehending the psychological foundations of every race he met. Humans, however, eluded his typical analytical framework, their contradictions wrapped in dermis. Torin explained to the inner circle during his quarterly briefing, they'll dedicate hours to debating the precise phrasing of a commercial agreement, then offhandedly mention their ancient conflicts where millions died, as if discussing atmospheric conditions. It's disquieting. The Grand Chamber throbbed with the gentle drone of translation devices as Torin occupied his assigned seat. His gaze shifted towards the human delegation, where Ambassador Blake Reynolds was occupied with reviewing documents on a rudimentary yet operational datapad. Reynolds, with his well-fitting attire and carefully controlled expression, personified what Torin had come to identify as humanity's diplomatic facade. "Observe him," Torin murmured to Mira. "Note how he sustains that agreeable demeanor, even while Ambassador Krill is projecting hostile glares at him. The Zenturi have been advocating for limitations on human mining entitlements for months, and yet Reynolds never displays irritation. Perhaps humans simply possess superior emotional regulation," Mira proposed, her tendrils arranging themselves into a pattern suggestive of doubt. No, I've examined their entertainment broadcasts," Torin countered, making a dismissive gesture with his upper limb. "They're volatile, brimming with emotions. This is something different. It's as if they're functioning in a sort of courtesy mode while within council confines." Torin's reservations had intensified after observing a peculiar incident 3 cycles ago. A junior human diplomat had received news of a private misfortune during negotiations, and for a fleeting moment, Torn had witnessed something alarming flash across the human's face before the amiable mask resumed its place. "I've begun to classify their behaviors," Torn went on, displaying his personal notes. "They employ exaggerated physical motions when clarifying concepts. They pose personal inquiries that would be deemed intrusive in most cultures. They exhibit constant smiles even when addressing grave matters, and most strangely, they appear genuinely fascinated by the physical makeup and societal structures of other races." "Many would deem that final attribute commendable," Mira interjected. "Perhaps, or perhaps it's calculated. Consider, what better method to comprehend potential rivals than to study their physiological vulnerabilities and cultural pressure points, all while feigning mere inquisitiveness?" The session commenced with the customary formal recognitions, each species delegate ascending in their assigned sequence to present the traditional salutation. When it was Reynolds' turn, he executed the intricate series of movements flawlessly, eliciting reluctant murmurs of approval from the more conventional members. "Humans, always indulging in theatrics," grumbled Ambassador Krill of the Zenturi Collective, his razor-sharp mandibles clicking in annoyance. The towering insectoid had made no attempt to conceal his contempt for humanity's swift advancement in galactic affairs. Council Overseer Lorik Zahn, a gelatinous entity of immense age and even greater influence, emitted a soft blue luminescence, signaling the commencement of the day's agenda. "We shall now address the issue of resource allocation in the contested Proxima sector, where certain anomalies have been documented." Torrance' 4 eyes blinked in astonishment. This item was not on the planned schedule. He glanced at Mira, who discreetly signaled her own bewilderment. "Specifically," Overseer Zan continued, his translated voice echoing through the chamber, "evidence has been submitted suggesting human mining operations have surpassed their designated allowances by 73%, leading to resource depletion that imperils entire developmental pursuits." The chamber erupted in stunned silence. Resource allowance violations were grave allegations, especially for a provisional member. Ambassador Reynolds maintained his collected demeanor, although Torrin observed a subtle tension around the human's eyes. "Overseer Zan, with all due respect, this is the first we are learning of such accusations. The Earth Confederation would be grateful for the opportunity to examine this evidence before responding to these serious charges." "The evidence is self-explanatory," Krill hissed, projecting a sequence of intricate holographic diagrams into the center of the chamber. "Our monitoring stations have documented sustained extraction activities at these coordinates, far exceeding the stipulated parameters." Reynolds scrutinized the data with practiced proficiency, his expression betraying nothing. But Torrin, observing intently, noticed the human's hands tighten almost imperceptibly on his datapad. "These coordinates," Reynolds stated carefully, "are not within human territory at all. They are located within the neutral buffer zone established by Treaty 7, 729b. Furthermore, the extraction signature does not correspond to human technology. Our systems utilize pulsed graviton extraction. This data indicates continuous plasma. Boring, consistent with..." Reynolds paused, and Torrin perceived the initial fissure in the facade of courtesy. The human ambassador inhaled slowly, deliberately, before proceeding. "This data shows methods consistent with Zenturi's second-stage mining operations." Krill's exoskeleton vibrated in what his species interpreted as amusement. "A preposterous attempt at misdirection. Humans are notorious for their duplicity. They simply altered their technology to imitate ours, establishing plausible deniability." "That is a grave accusation, lacking substantiation," Reynolds retorted, his voice still controlled but possessing a new sharpness that caused several council members to shift uneasily. "We possess witnesses," Krill clicked triumphantly. 3 independent traders reported human vessels in the vicinity engaged in unauthorized operations. "May I inquire as to the identity of these traders?" Reynolds inquired. "Their safety must be safeguarded," Krill countered. "Not everyone feels secure challenging humans directly, considering your species' history." The chamber's temperature seemed to decrease several degrees. Torrin had never witnessed Reynolds lose his composure before, but something was unfolding now. The human's face remained expressionless, but a subtle alteration occurred in his posture, straightening, widening slightly, that triggered an ancient instinctive warning in Torrens' mind. "I comprehend the necessity for confidentiality," Reynolds stated, each word meticulously measured. "However, without the capacity to cross-examine witnesses or scrutinize the purported evidence firsthand, we are operating in the domain of conjecture rather than galactic jurisprudence." Krill's mandibles clicked rapidly. "The Council does not necessitate your human notions of due process to render judgments. The evidence is unambiguous to those with operational sensory organs." Reynolds smiled, not the amiable, diplomatic smile that typically adorned his features, but something entirely distinct. A baring of teeth that contained no warmth whatsoever. Several council members instinctively recoiled. "Ambassador Krill," Reynolds stated, his voice descending to a register that somehow permeated the entire chamber without amplification. "Are you formally accusing Earth of fabricating mining data and infringing upon territorial agreements?" "I am," Krill chittered confidently. Reynolds nodded once, then tapped something on his datapad. "Excellent. In that case, Earth formally invokes Article 47 of the Council Charter. Complete evidentiary disclosure in instances of alleged malfeasance." A stunned hush descended upon the chamber. Article 47 was seldom invoked, as it mandated total technological transparency from both the accuser and the accused. That is unnecessary," Krill stammered, his mandibles suddenly motionless. "Oh, but it is," Reynolds countered, "and now everyone could observe it." The transformation was occurring in plain sight of the entire council. The agreeable, diplomatic mask was receding, revealing something ancient and predatory beneath. "In fact, I would like to invoke Emergency Protocol 12C for immediate authentication of all evidence presented today, including obligatory quantum verification of the alleged witness testimonies." Overseer Zan emitted an alarmed yellow luminescence. "Ambassador Reynolds, such measures are highly irregular." "For irregular," Reynolds interrupted, eliciting several gasps throughout the chamber. No one interrupted the Overseer. "What's irregular is being ambushed with fabricated evidence in a blatant attempt at diplomatic sabotage." The council chamber descended into pandemonium. Species representatives turned to one another in astonishment, translation devices struggling to keep pace with the sudden surge of multiple languages. Torrin Vex remained transfixed, observing as 3 years of meticulous study validated his suspicions in real time. "Order! I demand order!" Overseer Zan emitted a vibrant red hue, his gelatinous form expanding in what constituted anger among his kind. Reynolds remained perfectly still amidst the chaos, his focus laser-locked on Ambassador Krill, who had begun to inch towards the chamber's exit. "Departing somewhere, Ambassador?" Reynolds inquired, his voice slicing through the din. "Curious how eager you are to depart just as verification protocols are being mentioned?" Krill froze, his compound eyes darting between Reynolds and the exit. "This is outrageous! I will not remain here and be subjected to accusations by a primitive race barely emerged from its gravity well." "Rejection," Reynolds calmly noted to the chamber. "A classic tactic. Accuse others of precisely what you yourself are perpetrating." The human tapped his datapad once more, and suddenly, the central holographic display shifted to exhibit a completely different set of coordinates and readings. "Council members, what you are now viewing is authentic data from Earth's monitoring satellites. These recordings depict Zenturi mining vessels operating in the very same contested region, employing falsified transponder codes to disguise their identity codes that, rather clumsily, I might add, identify them as human vessels." A stunned silence enveloped the chamber as the evidence unfolded in vivid detail. "Ambassador Reynolds?" Overseer Zan pulsed cautiously. "Where did you acquire this information?" Reynolds smiled once more, and this time the expression held something that caused even Torrens' 4 eyes to widen. "Did you genuinely believe we only possess the monitoring stations we declared formally? Earth has been observing. We have always been observing." Krill chittered frantically. "They confess to unauthorized surveillance." "Oh, that's rich coming from you," Reynolds retorted with a bark of laughter devoid of any humor. Shall we also discuss the 3 Zenturi stealth probes currently orbiting Earth? The ones your government insists do not exist? We've been jamming their signals for months, feeding you precisely the data we desired you to perceive. The chamber descended into stunned silence. Torin frantically looked between Reynolds and Krill, his diplomatic training deserting him for perhaps the first instance in his career. Reynolds tapped his communication device. Captain Morgan, you are authorized to proceed with Operation Glass House. A new voice resonated through the chamber's audio system, bypassing Council communication protocols with unsettling ease. Understood, Ambassador. Transponder masks disengaging now. Suddenly, the Grand Chamber's security displays erupted with alerts. The space surrounding the harmonious Unity Station was illuminating with previously undetectable vessels, not merely 1 or 2 scout ships, but an entire human battle fleet that had somehow remained invisible to the Council's purportedly impenetrable detection systems. Sweet cosmic void, Mira whispered, her tendrils coiling in apprehension. They've had us surrounded this entire time. Not surrounded, Reynolds corrected, overhearing her. Protected. There have been 7 distinct assassination attempts against our diplomatic team since we joined the Council. Did you truly believe we would neglect to take precautions? Ambassador Krill's exoskeleton vibrated in fury. This is an act of aggression. The Zenturi Collective will not tolerate— Be seated, Krill, Reynolds interrupted, all pretense of diplomatic protocol discarded. Your government might wish to reconsider initiating a conflict with us, particularly since we've identified every single one of your cloaked weapon platforms throughout Council space. With another tap on his datapad, Reynolds projected a galactic map, displaying hundreds of concealed Zenturi military installations. Impossible, Krill protested. Our stealth technology is undetectable to your level of— Your stealth technology employs quantum phase variances to refract light and other electromagnetic radiation, Reynolds interrupted casually. Quite sophisticated, truly. However, it possesses a distinct gravitational signature that your scientists evidently deemed too insignificant to detect. They were mistaken. The human turned to address the entire stunned council. For 3 years, we have smiled, nodded, and performed the role of the appreciative newcomers to the galactic community, all while your various factions have been scheming, spying, and maneuvering against us and each other. And we documented everything waiting to determine if anyone would genuinely extend a hand of authentic partnership. The accusation lingered in the air, damning in its starkness. Several council members had the decency to appear ashamed, while others maintained expressions of indignant innocence. You dare to lecture us on duplicity? Krill seethed, his voice escalating to a chittering crescendo. Your entire history is inscribed in the blood of your own species. You nearly annihilated your homeworld multiple times. We have all reviewed the historical records. Reynolds nodded, his expression darkening. Indeed, we possess a violent history. We have never denied it. The distinction is, we learned from it. Can you assert the same? Ambassador Krill? With deliberate motions, Reynolds reached into his jacket and produced a small data crystal. The simple action caused security drones to pivot towards him, weapon systems humming to life. Easy, Reynolds stated to the drones, displaying the crystal clearly. This is not a weapon, at least not the kind that discharges projectiles. He placed the crystal on the central dais where it immediately interfaced with the Council's systems. A hologram sprang to life, depicting what appeared to be a clandestine meeting between Krill and representatives of 5 other species. Once the humans are discredited, their territories will be available for redistribution, Krill's recorded voice stated plainly. My government is prepared to offer generous concessions to those who support our motion. The recording continued, outlining a sophisticated conspiracy to frame humanity for resource violations, then utilize the resulting sanctions to seize their territories and technologies. We possess comparable recordings for 27 additional conspiracies against Earth, Reynolds stated flatly. Some of you desired our technology, others coveted our resources. A few simply wished us eradicated because our existence offended your sensibilities. The chamber was deathly silent now, even the customary background hum of environmental systems seeming muted. Overseer Zan emitted a somber blue luminescence. Ambassador Reynolds, while this evidence is unsettling, revealing classified military capabilities and confessing to covert surveillance operations, are grave breaches of Council protocols themselves. You are absolutely correct, Overseer, Reynolds concurred, surprising everyone. Then he smiled, that predatory smile again. Which is why I have been authorized to present an alternative to what could become a highly regrettable sequence of events. The human retrieved a second data crystal, this one glowing with a soft green light. This contains something my government designates as the Transparency Protocol. It is quite straightforward. All member species consent to genuine, verifiable disarmament of superweapons, authentic sharing of beneficial technologies, and routine open inspections of all military installations. Preposterous, bellowed Ambassador Grow of the Terran Empire, his massive fists pounding the table. No sovereign power would consent to such intrusive measures. Earth would, Reynolds stated simply. We will proceed first. Complete inspection privileges, total technological exchange. Because contrary to what you all appear to believe, humans do not seek dominance. We desire partnership asterisk, genuine asterisk partnership, not this den of vipers masquerading as a diplomatic assembly. Torin Vex found himself rising from his seat, all four of his eyes fixed on Reynolds with renewed comprehension. The Crystallian Federation would be amenable to considering such a protocol, provided equal implementation across all signatories. One by one, other delegates began to indicate cautious interest. Even some who had been implicated in the conspiracy recordings appeared to be reconsidering their positions. Krill, however, was not among them. The Zenturi ambassador's compound eyes gleamed with animosity. This is a deception. While you are all blinded by human assurances, I can perceive their genuine objective. They intend to lull us into a false sense of security before striking with... With lightning speed, Krill drew a concealed weapon from beneath his exoskeleton. The security drones reacted instantly, but the Zenturi was quicker, firing not at Reynolds but at the central power node for the chamber's defensive systems. Alarms blared as emergency protocols engaged. Reynolds dove for cover behind a pillar, all diplomatic facade discarded. Alert the fleet! Krill shrieked into a concealed communicator. Execute Operation Final Purge! Now the chamber's main view screen suddenly displayed a massive Zenturi battlecruiser decloaking directly above the station, weapon ports opening. You have miscalculated, human, Krill clicked triumphantly. While you revealed your concealed fleet, ours remained in reserve. This station will be obliterated, and your culpability as aggressors will be confirmed to the galaxy. Reynolds did not panic. Instead, he smiled once more, a genuine smile this time that reached his eyes. Actually, Ambassador Krill, I believe you will discover that you are the one who has miscalculated. The massive Zenturi battlecruiser abruptly froze in space, its weapon ports closing against their programming, and its engines shutting down sequentially. What is occurring? Krill stammered, his mandibles clicking in bewilderment and dread. Allow me to introduce you to another human concept, Reynolds stated calmly, rising from his defensive position and adjusting his suit jacket. We refer to it as a honeypot. Your vessel has not, in fact, engaged any weaponry because it cannot asterisk. That's stout. It has been under our control from the instant it entered this system. The view screen shifted to display multiple human vessels encircling the now disabled Zenturi cruiser. But they were not military vessels, they were ordinary-looking transport and cargo ships, the kind that had been arriving and departing from the station for years. Did you believe our genuine warships would be so conspicuous? Reynolds inquired, genuine amusement in his voice now. Those military vessels I revealed earlier, they are authentic, but they are merely the visible asterisk component of our security network. Every single civilian human vessel that has docked at this station over the past 3 years has deposited microscopic quantum entanglement nodes, completely undetectable because they function outside normal spacetime. The chamber erupted in stunned murmurs once more, but this time tinged with something new, respect, and perhaps a trace of fear. You have been traversing through our security system daily without realizing it, Reynolds continued. We could have assumed control of this entire station at any moment, but that was never our objective. One cycle later, the Galactic Council of Sentient Species convened in a new, temporary chamber while repairs to the Grand Chamber proceeded. The atmosphere was subdued, contemplative, and distinctly different from the ostentatious, ceremonial ambiance that had characterized council gatherings for millennia. Torin Vex entered the chamber, now serving in his new capacity as emergency interim overseer, following Zan's resignation. The former overseer had accepted accountability for permitting the security vulnerabilities that Krill had exploited. The council recognizes Ambassador Blake Reynolds of Earth, Torin announced, all four of his eyes focusing respectfully on the human. Reynolds approached the central platform, appearing somehow both more at ease and more authoritative than before. The artificial diplomatic veneer was absent, superseded by something more genuine. Thank you, Interim Overseer Vex, Reynolds commenced. In light of recent occurrences, I have been authorized to extend a formal apology from Earth for our deceptive measures. While we maintain they were essential given the circumstances, we acknowledge they infringed upon the spirit of trust this council aspires to foster. Murmurs of astonishment rippled through the chamber. No one had anticipated an apology. However, Reynolds continued, the events of the past cycle have demonstrated that the current system is fundamentally flawed. The Zenturi conspiracy, as it is now being termed, was not an isolated incident. It was a symptom of a dysfunctional institution. Ambassador Grow of the Talarians, who had initially opposed the transparency protocol, raised his massive hand. The Terran Empire has scrutinized the evidence furnished by Earth. I must concede that our initial evaluation of humans was predicated on prejudice rather than factual basis. We judged you as warmongers due to your past, while concealing our own belligerent intentions behind diplomatic facades. One by one, other delegates voiced comparable sentiments, some with sincere remorse, others with pragmatic acceptance of altered circumstances. Which brings me to the purpose of this session, Reynolds stated. Earth would like to formally accept the Council's invitation to become full members with one stipulation: the immediate implementation of the transparency protocol across all member worlds. A ripple of tension passed through the assembly. And if we decline? Inquired Ambassador Lonar of the Pill Confederacy, their floating, gas-filled body pulsing with cautious hues. Reynolds smiled, and this time it reached his eyes without revealing any teeth. Then we remain provisional members, continuing our policy of open transparency unilaterally. We will publish everything we know, including the various conspiracies we have documented, and permit the ordinary citizens of your worlds to determine if they are being adequately represented by their current leadership. Silence descended upon the chamber as the implications solidified. You would destabilize the entire galactic political structure, Lonar protested weakly. Perhaps ** requires * destabilizing, Torin Vex interjected, surprising everyone, including himself. What Ambassador Reynolds and his people have demonstrated to us is that our much-vaunted diplomatic customs have become nothing more than elaborate shields for deception and power struggles. We have forgotten the purpose of this council, to avert the very kind of conflict that nearly erupted here. Torin turned all four of his eyes to scan the chamber. I have dedicated my career to studying other species, believing I comprehended them. But I never truly understood humans until I witnessed Ambassador Reynolds discard his diplomatic mask. What terrified me was not their capacity for violence. We all possess that. What terrified me was their willingness to articulate simple veracity, regardless of political ramifications. Truth is a weapon humans wield more efficiently than any warship, Mirapax added from her position beside Torin. Unlike conventional armaments, it cannot be defended against through traditional means. Reynolds nodded appreciatively. An astute observation, although I would add that we prefer to conceive of truth as an instrument rather than a weapon. It can demolish, yes, but it can also construct. The voting procedure required less than 1 standard hour, a record in Council history. The transparency protocol was adopted by an overwhelming majority, with only 7 species abstaining. and the Zenturi representatives conspicuously absent, their provisional status revoked pending criminal investigations. As the session concluded, Torin approached Reynolds privately. "I must confess, Ambassador, I have been studying your species intensely for years, and yet I completely failed to perceive what was concealed behind your diplomatic, polite mode, as you term it." Reynolds laughed, a genuine sound that contained both warmth and a trace of ancient warning. "Do not feel inadequate, Overseer Vex. Humans have been refining the art of civility over a simmering capacity for decisive action for our entire history. The courtesy is not feigned. We genuinely favor collaboration and peaceful exchange. But when menaced," Torin inquired, already knowing the response. Reynolds' expression shifted subtly, providing Torin a fleeting glimpse of what lurked beneath humanity's amiable exterior. Something primordial, something that had clawed its way up from the mire of a violent world and reached for the stars, not merely with hope, but with resolve. "When menaced, we cease asking politely," Reynolds stated simply. "I am merely grateful we could discover a path forward without having to exemplify that principle more thoroughly." As Torin observed Reynolds depart, he made a mental note to revise the official council briefing on humans. Under "approach with caution," he would append a new line. Warning, polite mode is not their default setting. It is their *gift* to the rest of us.